morning, good afternoon, good evening. I've repeatedly warned that 2030 is a political decoy to detract both VP Chiwenga and the opposition. They will chase shadows while Mnangagwa plan, consolidate, and maneuver. This was a comment from journalist Hopewell Chin'ono. You have to agree with him. He's spot on. President Mnangagwa has been busy. The Zimbabwe Defense Forces commander, Charles Spanda, will retire, and in his place, Mnangagwa has promoted the Zimbabwe National Army commander, Matatu. And in Matuta's place, he has promoted an individual whose name is very familiar to most people as the Fuzz, the man behind the rigging, or at least who played a significant role in the rigging of the 2023 elections by Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF. Walter Tapfumaneyi. Many people believe that Matatu is not going to stay there very long, and Tapfumaneyi will then become the commander of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. Mnangagwa definitely has always played the long game. And many of these, and all these promotions actually, are seen as consolidating his own hold on power. Because most of those people who were so-called allies of VP Chiwenga have been phased out completely. And in place, and they've been replaced by those considered to be loyal to Mnangagwa. This is how Mnangagwa plays the political game. VP Chiwenga never had a chance, if the truth be told. Hopewell Chin'ono in his commentary said, President Mnangagwa has tightened his control over the military by appointing the men who masterminded the 2023 victory through Fuzz. That is spot on. No one can dispute that. The position of Fuzz and the role they played is well documented. And therefore, then men will see this as Tapfumaneyi being rewarded. And why not? The second point that, and I think more significantly, that Hopewell Chin'ono is mad is the following. He says, I've repeatedly warned that 2030 is being used as a political decoy to distract General Chiwenga and the opposition. Again, on that point, one cannot deny it. There's no doubt that Mnangagwa has outmaneuvered both Chiwenga and the opposition. As much as people would want to believe that Chiwenga is championing to stop Mnangagwa's ED 2030, changing the constitution, etc., etc. This has been a decoy, because so far, as much as Mnangagwa has said, or his supporters have said they wanted him to stay on, he has distanced himself, claiming that no, he's not interested, he's a constitutionalist. And during the party conferences, he was able then to say to the party publicly, the conference is not about succession. So we are not going to talk about succession. And yet, as we know, his supporters have pushed the succession issue. This whole party resolution number 1 is all about succession. So while he's telling Chiwenga and his supporters that they cannot bring up that issue because party conferences are not supposed to discuss those issues, it's only at party congress, which in their case, in the case of ZANU-PF, is scheduled for 2027. He has let his own supporters push this AD 2030. You can't deny that he has outmaneuvered his opponents there, General Chiwenga specifically. The other thing there is the opposition itself. ZANU-PF, ever since the opposition failed to implement even one token reform during the 2008 to 2013 GNU, the opposition itself has tried its level best not to discuss the issue and highlight its own incompetence. And ZANU-PF has taken advantage of that. The opposition are quite happy to go into 2028 pretending that the big issue is to stop Mnangagwa tampering with the constitution. And they can rally their supporters over that issue. But this is shadow boxing, chasing their own shadows, as Chin'ono would put it. Because to start with, like I said, Mnangagwa keeps insisting that he's a constitutionalist and is not interested. So the opposition are rallying their own supporters over a matter that could be dropped, because at the end of the day, if Mnangagwa was to honor his word and say, I'm not going to challenge the constitution, the 2028 elections will go ahead with ZANU-PF having a new candidate rather than Mnangagwa. And it will be too late for the opposition to tell their supporters that we have changed. The number one issue is we want the 2028 elections to be free, fair, and credible. So they will have to go ahead with those elections, participate in them, knowing fully well that ZANU-PF was rigging them. So again, they would have been completely outmaneuvered. But even if Mnangagwa was to maintain that position, that he wants 2030 to carry on beyond 2028, he already controls Parliament and the Senate. And this is a regime that has carried out the 2008 electoral coup and then the 2017 military coup and got away with it. I don't see how anyone can say changing the constitution so that Mnangagwa stays on a further 2 years is a bridge too far for the regime. What matters the most here is that the opposition will participate in 2028 with no reforms implemented. And if ZANU-PF wins, they will have won legitimacy. And that's all that matters here. The other point that Hopewell Chin'ono makes here, and I think it is important that we should pay attention to it. One thing Mnangagwa has, which Mugabe never had, is that he does not hesitate to make decisions. He is ruthless. I think that point was well illustrated when it was clear ZANU-PF was losing the 2008 elections. And it was Mnangagwa who seized the bull by the horn, stopped ZEC declaring the results, and here is the story of what happened next.
I also know that Mugabe conceded defeat on 2008. He phoned Mbeki and Obasanjo to concede defeat. I hope that Thabo Mbeki and Obasanjo will one day make that public. But one of them, I won't say which one, told me that Mugabe phoned them that Saturday night and said, look, I lost the election and I concede defeat. And I know that Mugabe stuck to his guns. I was prepared to go. His wife was since bags packed to go somewhere on the following day when Mnangagwa and Chiwenga approached him and said, you stay where you are. And then they contrived the runoff, sadly with the help of South Africa. And runoff took place, very violent. 360 people were killed. I don't know. The South African, I came here as part of a delegation to Cape Town to see members of the ANC. I don't want to mention names, they're my friends. I saw them, and through them, a cabinet committee of subcommittee of South African cabinet was set up on the Zimbabwe issue. It was on the basis of that cabinet committee that South Africa did not recognize the runoff. And indeed, it was the basis of that committee that Thabo sent the generals to South Africa, to Zimbabwe. I met them, and I was one of the few to have read the report, because I was flying to Joburg in the company of General Romano, who was a friend. He passed away, no? So, yeah. And I also took people who had lost their hands in the violence to the South African embassy in Harare. And Romano broke down in tears. How can a liberation movement treat its people like that? He was a broken man. So there's no doubt at all here in South Africa as to the brutality of the regime in Harare. So
well, that is very true and very tragic indeed. The brutality of Mnangagwa, the man now occupying State House, is well documented. The real tragedy is that the people of Zimbabwe have allowed such a corrupt, incompetent, and murderous thug to occupy the highest office in the land. Of course, no wonder we are a failed state. No wonder we are stuck. And as long as we have a tyrant like him in power, we really have a serious problem in our hands. There will be no meaningful political and economic change in Zimbabwe as long as we have a corrupt, incompetent, and murderous thug in high office. The picture you're seeing there is somebody showing a picture of the businessman Kudakwashi Takwire praying with both eyes closed. And juxtaposed with that is the picture of Mnangagwa himself doing the same thing, but with one eye open. And the caption is, somebody should tell this newcomer that in ZANU-PF, you don't pray with both eyes closed. You will wake up in India. Food for thought. Thank you very much. Have a good night.